Hey guys. So I've just decided to do the 8 values test and just walk you through how I'm answering the questions and why. Just as a footnote, I do think of myself as quite a liberal guy, quite left-leaning, quite progressive, but I try not to go off based off ideologies. I try to go based off values and ideas. But yeah, let's just see how we go. You'll be presented. Okay, got it. Oppression by corporations is more of a concern than oppression by governments. Agree. Okay, so oppression by corporations. Corporations are a lot easier to get that much control, and it's also a lot easier for them to really lose their touch with the people. Whereas governments are elected every few years. So it's a lot easier to get them out of power. So yeah, agree. It is necessary for the government to intervene in the economy to protect consumers. Strongly agree. The freer the market, the freer the people. That's kind of a vague statement, but I disagree. Because if it's a super duper free government, free market, then there's no protection for consumers, and there's nothing like that. It's just here, anarchy. Then you get situations like Iraq, Somalia. And I know it's not perfect to say that, but it's also not inaccurate to say that. So yeah, disagree. It is better to maintain a balanced budget than to ensure welfare for all citizens. A budget is just a random number. It's just a random number and say, hey, here's a line, random line in the sand, arbitrary line in the sand. Let's just go off this. Whereas welfare is a concrete statement. You're not going to get, okay, we're going to say welfare is you can afford a Tesla Model S. No, it's can they survive? Can you feed everyone? No. So, strongly disagree. Publicly funded research is more beneficial to the people than leaving it to the market. I have to agree. Publicly funded research, they have no reason to be biased. When it's privately funded, then there can be market biases, whereas if it's publicly funded and given to us by the government, then those biases aren't really there. So yeah, agree. International trade is beneficial. So, as much as I think it improves the quality and quantity and affordability, it also takes away jobs. So, unsure. From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. No. Because if you're going off that, then people that earn more and the meritocracy, that doesn't really work. If you do more work, then you should get more. To disagree. It would be best if social programs were abolished in favor of private charity. It would be great, but that's not feasible, so disagree. Taxes should be increased on the rich to provide for the poor. Agree. Strongly agree. Inheritance is a legitimate form of wealth. No. I mean, you didn't work for that money. Sure, you could keep the money, I guess, but it isn't your money. You don't get to say, oh my god, I earned this solely. I did this perfectly. I am a magnificent human being because my daddy worked hard. My daddy owned a monopoly. No, you don't get to say that. Disagree. Public utilities like roads and electricity should be publicly owned. Strongly agree. If roads are privately owned, then they have no incentive to do them properly. Same with electricity. Excessive government intervention is a threat to the economy. I mean, yes, it is. It's just defining what is excessive. Excessive to a pure capitalist would be a government being in the economy, whereas excessive to a communist would be nothing. There's nothing too much for the government to do. So, agree. Meaningless statement, though. Those with a greater ability to pay should receive better healthcare. Disagree. Now, I like the free market, but I think you should have to pay into the system. Otherwise, people that are well off to do are going to go with the private healthcare because it's theirs. And that takes away from the system and makes it unfeasible. So yeah, disagree. Quality education is a right of all people. Strongly agree. Education is a right. Everyone has a right to education. It is definitely a human right. The means of production should belong to the workers who use them. To an extent. I believe in unions. Unions are hella important. You need countries that have high amounts of unionization have much fairer wages, the people are happier, so to an extent, but I also agree that some form of structure, a linear structure based on who started the company and stuff like that, is also quite helpful. So, disagree. The United Nations should be abolished. Disagree. It's important to note that every country should abide by international law. If the United Nations is abolished, America would probably go on a bombing spree and just overthrow all of the governments that have oil. So, disagree. Military action by our nation is often necessary to protect it. Disagree. Australia is not under threat by any major power, nor is it under threat by any minor power. In fact, we're involved in many countries that were not even close to aggressive towards us. We're just following America. And America is also involved in 8 countries who are also not aggressive towards it. So yeah, disagree. I support regional unions such as the European Union. I support regional unions, but I don't support the European Union. In its current form, at least. I mean, I don't think grouping countries like Greece and Germany together is beneficial. They're very different economies. They should be run separately. But I also think that regional unions like Benelux and the Nordic Council and things like that can be quite beneficial. So I'm going to hit agree. It is important to maintain our national sovereignty. Strongly agree. Is this more nationalist sentiment? Yeah. A united world government would be beneficial to mankind. No. That would not be democratic. That would be grouping a Western democracy like Australia in with Saudi Arabia. Not to mention, if we went on the world's sentiment towards atheists, we would be killed. So, strongly disagree. It is more important to maintain peaceful relations than to further our strength. Strongly agree. Wars do not need to be justified to other countries. Strongly disagree. Military spending is a waste of money. Agree. In the case of America, absolutely. But in the case of Australia, we don't need to increase it, but we don't really need to decrease it. International aid is a waste of money. Disagree. Now, international aid to dictatorships, yes. But international aid to countries that have been ravaged by natural disasters, no. Helping people in Haiti or Puerto Rico or people that were affected by the bushfires in California, giving aid to those areas is good. They can't control the situation that we're in. But if you're giving aid to South Africa and they go and spend it on a chicken coop, yeah, that's wasting money. So, I'm going to disagree, but just keep that in mind. My nation is great. Agree. I love Australia. Research should be conducted on an international scale. What the hell does this mean? Research, like criminal justice research? Scientific research? There's a lot of things that can be research. So, unsure. Governments should be accountable to the international community. Agree. Even when protesting an authoritarian government, violence is not acceptable. Strongly agree. That is my biggest principle. If you fight with your fists, then you don't have the resources at your hand to fight with your mouth. If you don't have the argument, why are you fighting? Just, if you don't have an argument, stay home. My religious values should be spread as much as possible. What? My lack of religious values? I mean, yeah, but not like forcefully. Don't want to force my views into churches. I mean, teach evolution in science, but don't teach it in a church. Our nation's values should be spread as much as possible. Once again, it's kind of vague. Agree. It is very important to maintain law and order. What does this mean? I mean, law and order is good. I don't want murderers to go get a week in jail. But at the same time, I don't want them to be put into a fry pan and made into an omelette in front of friends. But, yeah. I mean, maintaining law and order. Oh, is that, like, punishing? I mean, the way some people use the word law and order, it is very vague. So I guess agree? Like, I like good things. The general populace makes poor decisions. Disagree. Now, the general populace at large, no. Certain people, yes. Victimless crimes, such as drug use and other crimes, I all strongly agree. The sacrifice of some civil liberties is necessary to protect us from acts of terrorism. Strongly disagree. As the Patriot Act, which affected pretty much every country, hasn't stopped any major terrorist attacks. So, there you go. Government surveillance is necessary in the modern plot. Strongly disagree. The very existence of a state is a threat to our liberty. Of course not. The very existence of a state strengthens your liberty to not get murdered, to not get raped, to not get pillaged, to not get stolen from. So I strongly disagree. Regardless of political opinions, it is important to side with your country. Of course not. Patriotism is standing by your country. Not whether it's correct or not correct. It's just, if your country is crumbling to the ground, you don't just sit there like, hey, my country's amazing. No, you stand, you go, and you fix it. You don't just let it crumble. I think it was Kyle Kalinske. He used the metaphor of, so your teenage daughter is doing drugs, seeing bad people. If you're a patriot and you full on always support your daughter, then you're going to say, hey, you're doing well, Jessica. But if you're reasonable, you fix her problems. You tell her what she's doing is wrong, and you give her the resources she needs to fix her life. So, strongly disagree. No authority should be left unquestioned. Strongly agree. A hierarchical state is best. Kind of vague as well. I mean, depends how different the hierarchies are. See, back in the socially democratic days, so wealth inequality was not that bad, but it was obviously there because that's just a side effect of a capitalist system. That was good. The harder you worked, the more entrepreneurial you were, the more money you earned. Today, the hierarchical state is way out of whack. The top 1% of 1% earns 40% of the wealth of all of America. So a hierarchical state in that sense, no, but in a more socially democratic sense, where it's more reasonable, the top 10% of top 1% of the population earns about 15% of the wealth. Fine, but yeah, agree. It is important that the government follows the majority opinion even if it is wrong. Agreed. It's a democratic government, which means it's ruled by the people. If it's ruled by the people, then it's a democracy. If you don't rule by the majority opinion, it's not a democracy. Agree. The stronger the leadership, the better. Strongly agree. Actually, strongly disagree. I mean, you don't want a strong man because that suppresses it, but unsure. Democracy is more than a decision-making process. Disagree. It's ruling by the people. Environmental regulations are essential. Absolutely. Pollution is a carcinogen. We regulate food to make sure they don't have carcinogens in it. We regulate tobacco products because they are a known carcinogen. So we need to regulate businesses that are pumping carcinogens into the air. It's the same principle. A better world will come from automation, science, and technology. This is a tough one. Because automation, that will be the ultimate outsourcer, because after that point, there will be no more outsourcing. There'll just be more and more technological advancement. Humans will basically be obsolete in the workforce. Jobs will probably be a tenth of what they are now. I think I've heard some of that from somewhere. So in that sense, no. But more science is obviously a great thing. I'd love to see a world where today's theories are completely disproven. Because under a scientific world, our current theories need to be disproven. It's just the goal of science, to disprove all of its theories. And better technology, same thing. But I also think as technology develops, older technologies will become obsolete, and obviously that breeds consumerism, and it's just not a great thing for the planet. So I guess unsure. Children should be educated in religious or traditional values. Strongly disagree. Children are vulnerable. If you educate them in one way, they're going to believe it. So, just for the same reason I don't think children should not be able to transition, I also think they shouldn't be able to be educated in religious or traditional values. Disagree. Traditions are of no value on their own. On their own, agree. I mean, this is a very vague statement. Again, religion should play a role in government. Strongly disagree. Churches should be taxed the same way other institutions are taxed. Strongly agree. The US loses like $71 billion worth of tax revenue every year because they don't tax their churches. I strongly agree. Climate change is currently one of the greatest threats to our way of life. Strongly agree. It is important that we work as a united world to combat climate change. Strongly agree. Society was better many years ago than it is now. Strongly disagree. Women's rights, gay rights, trans rights, rights for people of color. It is important that we maintain the traditions of the past. Depends on the tradition. I'm gonna click agree. Some of them are important, but some of them need to go. Flying a Confederate flag. You don't see Germans loving the Nazi flag. You don't see Japanese pandering around the Imperial Japanese flag. So why do you see people in the southeast of America pandering for the Confederate flag? It is important that we think in the long term beyond our lifespans. Strongly agree. Who would say you noted that? Reason is more important than maintaining our culture. I'm going to click agree because hopefully you live in a culture where reason and maintaining culture are the same. But say you're in Saudi Arabia, if you're maintaining the culture rather than reason, then gay people will continue to be slaughtered. Okay. Drug use should be legalized or decriminalized. Strongly agree. Same-sex marriage should be legal. Strongly agree. No cultures are superior to others. Strongly disagree. Now, cultures are better than others, but we should treat them as if they're equal. Actually, that's a bad statement. Cultures are different and some are superior. For example, Western culture recently has pushed for massive social progress. Gay rights, gay marriage, trans rights, rights for people of color, rights for women. But compare that to also the atrocities we've committed in the past. Then you also get places like Saudi Arabia, which are still massive oppressors of women. I'd say the West is superior. Also, the West leads in quality of life, especially the Scandinavian regions, Western Europe, and Oceania. So yeah, some cultures are superior to others. Sex outside marriage is immoral. Strongly disagree. Sex, as long as it's consensual, is never immoral. If we accept migrants at all, it is important that they assimilate into our culture. To a degree. It is hella important that they adopt our laws, just for everyone. Tourists, migrants, citizens, everyone. It is important that they accept our laws. It is also important that they, as citizens, we accept their differences. Whether that's they wear a hijab, or they don't eat pork, or they don't celebrate Christmas. We have to accept that. But they also shouldn't be offended when we do say things like that. So yeah, it is important that I'm going to agree. Abortion should be prohibited in most or all cases. Strongly disagree. It isn't the state's role to decide whether it should or should not. It's up to the individual. Gun ownership should be prohibited for those without a valid reason. Disagree. Guns should be regulated like cars, as in they should be stored in a correct way. They should be locked. You should have a license to operate them, and they should only be sold in certain areas. There should also be registration, stuff like that. And there also has to be certain places where you can't use them. You're not going to go grab your car and drive into a school. It's just not useful. Same for a gun. But I don't believe that they should be completely wiped off the map. Obviously, a lot of people have cars. If a gun can save your life just as much as a car, then why shouldn't it follow the same? So, disagree. I support single-payer universal healthcare. Strongly agree. Prostitution should be illegal. Disagree. Now, legalizing prostitution. I'm more on the libertarian side of this. I mean, I'd probably never get a prostitute, but
Who are you talking to?
YouTube.
YouTube?
Yes. Prostitution should be legal.
You're making a video.
Prostitution should be legal because it takes away pimps' powers to oppress, to force women into things that they shouldn't. It also gives prostitutes more abilities to negotiate wages, to negotiate condom use, and if a deal goes wrong, they can get the cops involved. Whereas now, it's a very risky business. So, disagree. Maintaining family values is essential. Family values is very vague. Very vague. But, I mean, disagree. Because when they say family values, they mean women barefoot pregnant in the kitchen and no rights for gays. To chase progress at all costs is dangerous. Agree. I mean, at all costs, yeah. Agree. Genetic modification is a force for good even on humans. Even on humans? Disagree. But also, yeah, disagree. We should open our borders to immigration. Does this mean open border policies or that we're a hermit kingdom? Agree. They don't word it very well. Okay. Governments should be as concerned about foreign citizens as they are about those within their borders. Disagree. Strongly disagree. It's a different government's job. All people, regardless of factors like culture or sexuality, should be treated equally. Strongly agree. That's just common sense. It is important that we further my group's goals above all others. I mean, no. It should be up to the people. So, social balance, liberal, progressive. Social liberalism. This is how I stack up. So I'm 72% equality. Doesn't say markets. Pretty social. Diplomatic access. I'm balanced. I'm liberal and very little authority. Even though some things were quite authoritative. And on the societal axis, I am progressive. I'm surprised I'm probably in the last category before socialism, but my label would be quite similar to that, social democrat. Once again, don't really care about labels, but I'm interested on the diplomatic axis how balanced. I guess I am more nationalist, on the more nationalist side, like internationalist, I guess. But yeah, balance makes sense for that. Yeah. Well, that's fun. I think I might do a few more of these quiz videos. There's the Political Compass, infamous. There's that one by Pew. And yeah, there's a bunch of them. If you like this video, please click the like button. If you didn't, there's the other button. Subscribe. Don't have a channel name yet, but I'll come up with one. If you enjoyed, do whatever. I don't really care. Thanks for listening, and good night.